Well, hey guys. So I'm on the road again. I am heading to Austin to take my law school admissions test or aptitude test or whatever the LSAT stands for. Don't really care. It's the LSAT. The whole process of applying for law school is kind of frustrating because it's all centralized. It doesn't matter if you want to go to school in Maine or California or Texas or Utah. It's all covered by the LSAC, which is a centralized thing. So I can't just apply to school. I've got to go through this website to apply to the school. It's very frustrating, and it's quite confusing actually. It's supposed to be streamlined, I'm sure, but not for me. Anyway, so I'm heading to Austin. The LSAT is given at the University of Texas at Austin, hence why I decided to wear my MAGA hat today. Thought I'd try to steal up a few spines while I'm there, because people in their safe spaces, they're afraid of 4 words and a red hat. But if anybody does get offended, though, I have a bunch of safety pins that I've attached to my MAGA hat so that if anyone feels unsafe, I can hand them a safety pin and they'll feel better about themselves and able to live life after having to look at a hat. I care deeply about these snowflakes in Austin, and so I want to make sure that they're okay and that their precious egos are kept in check. So I always keep extra safety pins on my MAGA hat so that if somebody gets offended, I can hand them one. Because let's face it, a safety pin, finding that safe place is it's much more humane to give them one of those than it is a tissue to wipe away the liberal tears. So we'll see. But anyway, I'm on my way to the University of Texas to take my law school admissions test. It's like a 3.5 or 4 hour test, I think, or longer. I don't know if that includes breaks or not. But man, I'm supposed to feel really good, but I'm like feeling like crap today. I've got a bad headache, which I have a bad headache about every other day anyway, thanks to Almost Park. And then stomach's turning, so that could just be nerves. Anyway, so a couple things I wanted to put in this video was a bunch of nonsense. But if you got questions, I've got nothing better to do for I'm not going to be on this video for the next 30 minutes or so, but that's about how long I have until I get to Austin. So I just thought, hey, I'd give everybody a chance, those that are awake at 10 o'clock, which should be everybody. If you guys got any questions or things you want to talk about. But there was a shooting today in Toronto. I don't know if you heard about that. It's obviously fake news, and it's absolutely impossible for a shooting to occur in Toronto because it's a gun-free country. You're not allowed to have a handgun, and it's very difficult to get a license to carry like a long arm. So we know that in a gun-free area, that is absolutely impossible for a shooting to occur. And it also said that the police engaged in a shootout with this guy, but that's impossible because, well, first of all, why do the police have guns if there aren't people with guns in Canada? So the whole thing is obviously fake, because when you live in a gun control society, people don't have guns, right? So there couldn't have been a shootout with police. It's all made up. It's got to be. That's the only logical conclusion, unless, of course, you want to believe that gun control doesn't work. But we all know that gun control is like, that's how you prevent gun violence, right? So that can't be the answer. Anyway, for those of you just joining us, some people said catch me up. I really haven't said anything important or of value yet. I'm on my way to UT. I'll say again, I'm wearing my Make America Great hat again, which I usually do if I have to go to UT, because I want to make sure that I like to educate people and help people get in touch with their emotions and control them a little bit better. So I wear my MAGA hat, and the idea is exposure therapy. So the more these little snowflakes in Austin at UT get exposed to MAGA hats, probably the better they'll be able to handle their emotions afterwards. But if they're not, I've got safety pins on my hat. So if someone gets really offended, I can take off a safety pin and I can hand it to them, and then they'll feel safe. So, all right, how do I feel about the 3D thing? Absolutely. I love that. I think it was Defense Distributed, something like that. I believe that was the name of the company. I have a really bad headache, so. But I love that they won, and that people can print their own guns if they want to. I've always thought that the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms, and if the government, it says shall not be infringed, but yet they want to use the interstate commerce to justify regulating and infringing on your rights, well then, if that's the case, then I have a right to create my own firearms, whether that's with metalwork, whether that's 3D printing in my garage. So, hey, I believe in liberty, man. If you don't have any evil intent or ill intent, you're not gonna use your guns to break the law and not break the law, because let's face it, these are the laws of man, not the laws of God, and the laws of man are ever changing. They're more like statutes. So I believe that, yeah, absolutely. If you want to be able to print your own firearm, print your own firearm. And I'm glad that they won that case. It's a free speech issue, I think. And it's a Second Amendment issue. So you got your First and Second Amendment rights. Good on them. I'm glad that, and what's funny is that came out of the Ninth Circuit. And the Ninth Circuit is not only the most liberal circuit court in the country, but it's also the most overturned by the Supreme Court. And I have a feeling that the Ninth Circuit, whoever it was going after these guys, are not, they're not going to take it to the Supreme Court, because they know now, now they're going to lose if they take it to the Supreme Court. So that's good stuff. So there's that question. That's what I think about that. Do I feel like it's a setup to create more laws and criminals? Do I feel, is what a setup? I must have missed something. Keep in mind, I'm not going to be scrolling because I'm driving, so if it pops up on the screen, I can see it real quick, but I'm not going to actually read my phone while I'm driving, or at least make an active effort to go back. So I don't know what you mean is what a setup. So if you got, for those just joining, if you've got a question about anything, if you wondered about, feel free to ask it, post it. Oh, the printing of 3D guns? No, I don't think it's a setup. Not at all. I mean, I don't see how they're going to be able to control it. I'm sure that some states are probably going to start creating laws and things like that, but look, all you're doing is you're sending a file. So what, I don't see the difference between, I don't see how they can regulate that kind of speech, because if I send a picture of a gun, or I send a schematic of how a gun was built, or I send an STL file of a 3D printed gun, I think they're all the same thing. It's what someone does with that. You know, what we need to be doing in this country is prosecuting actions, not perceptions, and not objective thoughts about what someone might or might not do with something. So that's the root of the problem here, is we need to be prosecuting and legislating actions that actually violate people's liberties, not legislating and regulating what people might do just because they own something. I own this car, and it's very possible I could run through a crowd of Antifa guys with it on purpose. But does that mean that owning this car, I should that there should be additional regulations on it because I might use it for ill intent? No. So I don't think regulating 3D printed files, I don't think it's going to lead to that. I really don't. But then again, these days, who knows? I know they'll try. I guarantee you they'll try. So, so this is going to be a fun week. I've got my LSAT today. I did get my tire fixed this weekend. On Saturday, I woke up with a flat tire and then found out when I got there that I also had 2 bent wheel studs. So I was there all day until like 2 o'clock, getting that fixed. And then today I'm going to be in Austin all day. I did bring my gear, so I might, after my exam, kind of relax a little bit by doing an open carry walk around Austin. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. It's freaking hot, but that's not going to stop me. And then Friday I head to Tallahassee, Florida, where I will be speaking at a Florida carry rally there at the state capitol on gun rights. And I'll give you kind of a quick preview of what I'm going to talk about when I get there. Is Florida, so I'm not going to focus just on open carry. I'm going to focus on activism and the need for people to get involved, especially in a place like Florida. In Texas, we got nowhere. We got nowhere until Open Carry Texas came along and we started making an issue out of gun rights. And we started exposing the fact that Texas was one of only 6 states that didn't allow open carry. And, we started making gun rights sexy again. So, I'm going to Florida to hopefully encourage people to stand up and take a stand, because now Florida is one of only 5 states that bans open carry. And I know you got those people out there that want to argue, oh, open carry's not banned in Florida, we're allowed to open carry. All right, look, I'm talking about, you can't just open carry, you have to open carry in certain very limited circumstances. All right, hunting, camping, things like that. That's not open carry. Yes, you can open carry, but I'm talking about a general legality of open carry. So Florida is one of 5 states that does not allow open carry legally anywhere one goes. So they're only one of 5 states that do that. And they just passed a red flag law in Florida, or as we like to call it, because what it is, a gun confiscation law. That's all red flag laws are, is gun confiscation laws. And so they've got a battle on their hands. And the problem is that the opposition is very well organized, and they're willing to take to the streets. They're willing to make phone calls. They're willing to show up at rallies. They're willing to show up at hearings. And the gun rights crowd in Florida, this is what I'm trying to do. Yes, South Carolina is the other anomaly state. South Carolina and Florida. Now, Florida's kind of a purple state. I would say South Carolina is more of an anomaly because it's more of a red state than Florida is. And it shouldn't be, they should not be banning open carry in South Carolina. So that's even more of an anomaly. But yes, South Carolina and Florida are 2 of 5 states that don't allow it. The other 3, of course, Illinois, California, and New York. So there you go. South Carolina and Florida are in league with Illinois. And that's what those people in Florida need to do. It's my hope and my desire and my goal that when I go to Florida on Friday, that I can encourage them to get more active in what they do, to organize, to get out there and exercise their rights. And I know that a lot of people are scared. Believe me, we were scared when we first started Open Carry Texas. We had 24 arrests in the first 6 months, from June to December of 2013 when we started. We had 24 arrests for open carry. And so it takes people who are willing to take a stand for what is right. Now, it doesn't mean you have to break the law, because keep in mind, every single one of those cases was thrown out. So there you go. No, Florida does not have open carry at all. You can open carry without a license in Florida if you are hunting, fishing, or camping, and I think there's one other circumstance that you're allowed to, and of course on your private property, but I think there's one other circumstance that I'm missing off the top of my head. And you can only open carry when doing those activities or heading to or from those activities. And so what some people down in Florida carry have been doing, and in Florida have been doing, and I've been encouraging this for a long time, is to do their rallies, to do a fishing rally, an open carry fishing rally. Pick a spot where you guys, where they're gonna go and they're gonna cast in their lines, right? Park about a mile or 2 miles away from that spot, get everybody organized together, and then open carry march with your flags, your signs, your posters, whatever, to that fishing spot or that camping spot, and throw your line in for a second or two so that you meet the legal definitions, and then reel it back in and walk back the other 2 miles, and you know, make it a different route so that you know, you go in a big circle or something so that you can hit more areas. And that's how you do activism legally in Florida. So there you go. It's that easy, and they can't stop you from open carrying. Now, they recently had an arrest. Actually, I believe they were released, but either way, they were put in handcuffs at gunpoint. Literally, the Miami Police Department pointed guns at people who were fishing, actively fishing, poles in the water and everything. They had holstered handguns on their hips, didn't have their hands on their guns, but Miami PD comes up at gunpoint and forces these patriots on the ground, and then arrests them for lawful carry. They had the law with them on a piece of paper, and these badged thugs, I'm not talking about all cops, I'm talking about the cops involved here. These badged thugs who believe that they're the moral superiority of in society, believe that what they believed was more important than the law. They wouldn't even read the piece of paper. These were Florida carry people who know their stuff. That would be like a police officer arresting me and believing he knows more about gun laws than I do. So it's the same thing. They arrested people who were leaders in Florida carry, and they told them, read the paper. They quoted the law to them, and they refused to read the paper, and instead opted to just exercise their bully authority to arrest these people for no reason. And so some people that might scare, because they're like, I don't want guns pointed at me. I'm not going to go open carry for, I mean, I conceal carry anyway. So, you know, what do I care? And anyway, so, yes, very good point. They also encouraged, after they released these guys and they went back to fishing or whatever, they were telling the public not to go down that pier because there were people with guns. So Miami Police Department was instilling fear in the public about lawfully armed citizens. That's just absurd. And here I thought the police supported our rights. Why are they actively doing that? So it just goes to show you, and look, I'm going to make a generalized statement here, and I realize there are exceptions to this rule, but suck it up. I'm making a generalized statement that's true, that's verifiable. The number one threat to gun rights in this country is not Bloomberg. It's not Moms Demand Action. It's not these little snot-nosed punks traveling across the country pushing for gun control. The number one threat to gun rights in this country is law enforcement. You can agree with that or not, but if you don't agree with it, prove it. I would say prove it. Because then the next argument is, well, they're just obeying the law. Okay, well, what if the law says to confiscate everybody's guns? Well, then what? So either you have to violate your own statement that they're just following the law because they would never do that, or they should ignore that. Well, then what's the difference in ignoring that law or ignoring an ordinance that says I can't carry a loaded firearm on a city street in San Antonio? So those are the things. That's what I'm going to do when I get down to Florida, and I'll be there until Sunday. I was hoping to just come back, have it a one-day thing, but it looks like I'm coming back Sunday instead of Saturday. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I haven't been to Florida in many years. I grew up somewhat in Jacksonville. My dad was stationed at Naval Air Station Jacksonville, and so I went to high school and junior high school there in Jacksonville. So Florida is kind of like a second home for me. I still have many, many friends that I'm looking forward to seeing. I hope they go to Tallahassee. And there you go. One of the other things I want to talk about was this Leon Valley thing, because I know a lot of people are upset, and really they should be, about two things about Leon Valley. The first, of course, is that not a lot of people showed up on Saturday for their event. And definitely, I don't think any of the so-called well-known or big-named people in the activist community showed up for this event. So, first of all, there should have been a lot more people there. I get it. The problem is, I don't think it was it just wasn't well organized, and there wasn't a goal or a mission. And so this is just unsolicited advice. I don't even know who this advice specifically is geared towards. But when you're going to do a rally or an event, there has to be a purpose to it. There has to be a purpose to it, and you have to be able to articulate that purpose. Just showing up, a bunch of people showing up to just film, I get it. That's what everybody's being arrested for. It might prove a point that, hey, why aren't you arresting these guys or causing these guys problems? But there's got to be some sort of actionable thing that you do and a message that can be conveyed. There was no coordination. There's no synthesis of the event. You had groups of people in two different places. I heard some people left within a half an hour. There were people who drove, I know from Open Carry, Texas, because I got messages. There was at least one person that drove 5 hours to get there. And by 11:30, they were saying that they were leaving. And that they had achieved their objective. But I don't understand what objective was achieved, and the response, and again, I don't know who's making this response. The response was, well, we forced them to spend a lot of money on barricades, bringing extra that. That's not a win, because if you say you're going to show up and it's a big rally and you don't have a lot of people there, what that tells them is that all they need to do is put up a bunch of barriers and put a bunch of officers on duty, and they're going to size rates. There was no like press statement. There was no press coordination to get the meeting. This was a perfect opportunity, even if only 12 people had showed up. And I know there were more than that, but even if only 12 people show up, you need to invite the media to every single one of these kinds of planned events, because that's how you get your narrative out there. Then it would have been a win, because you could have shown the media, look at how the police set up all these barriers for what? People with cameras? Are the police so scared of cameras? But all it looked like was just a bunch of people walking around filming. So what? It was a Saturday, and there weren't a lot of people filming. So it really needs organization. Now, one of the reasons a lot of people that are big in the activist movement didn't show up is because they've already got skin in the game there in Olmos Park. So it's funny how many people on these videos from Leon Valley, not Olmos Park, I'm sorry, Leon Valley, how many people say they're upset and they're pissed off and they're angry and you know, we support you and Leon Valley needs to pay and so needs to be fired. Well, that's all well and good, but guess what? A comment on a video on YouTube doesn't make a difference. Showing up makes a difference. And then these same people who didn't show up are criticizing other people who didn't show up because they didn't like their excuse for why they didn't show up. But yet these are the same people who have already been arrested for the cause. Look, this is why I haven't been back to Olmos Park yet. It's not that I'm afraid, because I'm definitely not afraid. Chief Valenciano doesn't scare me one bit. But I've already got skin in the game. What good does it do for the same person to go back over and over and over again and just get arrested over and over and over again? They're already fighting the abuse in court. So they've got to make sure that that rolls out. And they've got to bring that to conclusion. And if they don't get the conclusion that they want, then they go back and you fight it again. But what they need to see, what Leon Valley needs to do is one of two things. They need to see a whole bunch of people in Leon Valley that are different, not the same people over and over and over again. They need to see a whole bunch of people who care about this. One person getting arrested for filming should enjoin 100 people to get involved. But they've had like 10 people get arrested, one of which was tased. So there should be 1,000 people going to Leon Valley. Sorry, I'm getting a whole bunch of messages now. And so that, you know, for people who weren't there to criticize auditors who have already been arrested and didn't show up, I mean, first of all, I don't care about your opinion in that case. If you weren't there yourself and you want to criticize someone for saying, hey, look, here's why I didn't show up, and you don't think that's a good enough reason, well, sorry, your opinion means nothing. But Leon Valley needs people to show up, and then one of two things is going to happen. They're going to with people for no reason for filming, or they're going to not do anything and they're going to help strengthen the case of those that were arrested. Because then when they go to court, when these guys that have already been arrested go to court for filming, because they were filming, they could easily point to all the people who've been there since and go, wait a minute, if what we were doing was so wrong, look at all these hundreds and thousands of people, or even dozens of people, who have gone to Leon Valley after us and done the exact same thing we did, and they weren't arrested, which means we were targeted. And it wasn't until we drew awareness and embarrassed the department did they decide to realize and recognize that what they were doing was wrong. So those are the two reasons why people need to show up. All right? And those are the two actions that Leon Valley can take. They can do nothing and look bad because they arrested some and not others, which means they're doing selective enforcement of the law or targeted enforcement. Or two, they're going to arrest everyone and look bad. So they either arrest everyone and look bad, or they arrest no one and look bad. You've got to set them up for that kind of a case. And you do that by obeying the law, exercising your rights, and replicating the processes that led to the arrests in the first place. So, there you go. That's why some of the big names weren't there. But you shouldn't need big names to believe in freedom. If you believe in freedom, you need to show up. Can you imagine if you know, Thomas Paine and George Washington and John Adams and all those guys had said, you know what, man, this is hard. We don't want to get arrested. If we go out there and we stand up to the British, you know, we're going to get killed. We're going to get tased. We might get thrown in a cage. We might have our cameras stolen. Man, where would we be with that attitude? And so you either care about freedom and you're willing to sacrifice for it. And people, oh, I got a family. I got a family. Guess what? James Freeman has a family. All these guys have families. They're out there standing up for themselves and for their rights. And whether you agree with it or not, they're standing up for your rights. So, all right. Wow, I actually made it. I didn't think I was going to speak this long. I didn't realize it was going to be a 30-minute video. All right, I've got a couple minutes before I find a parking spot here. If anybody's got a last-minute question, I haven't been watching the comments because I've been in Austin traffic, so I've just been talking. If anybody's got any questions or comments, I'll give you about a minute or two to post them in the video. If not, I'm going to go ahead and end this and try and find me a parking space over here near UT. But it is hard to find a balance between activism and family. You're absolutely right. Family is one of the reasons why I didn't go. Of course, the flat tire was the other. It's painful. Activism is painful. Will I be at the Senate hearing tomorrow? John, honestly, I'm not sure. I'm having car problems. The only reason I drove to Austin today is because it's my test for college. We will definitely have people there, whether I'm going to personally be here or not. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to be there, which is going to be the first hearing I'm going to miss. But let me tell you why it doesn't matter. Well, I probably shouldn't because people need to show up, but I'm going to anyway. The fact of the matter is, we showed up at the House hearings and we made our voice heard. And we also got to listen to the arguments of the other side. And I know what they're going to say, and I know what all this is. And so really, we're just going to hear more of the same. And these hearings, there is no... there's no bill that's going to be announced. So it's not like there's a bill we need to go fight for or against. We're going there to argue philosophy. And I've already argued philosophy at the legislature. So, all right, let me just back up. Am I going to be there? I don't know, but we are going to be there. Open Carry Texas will definitely be there for sure, 100%. Count on it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be there. I got to get my car fixed, and I've just got to do it. I don't have a choice anymore, and I've got to get my van fixed. So. I'm going to try, just like I always do. I'm going to try, and if I can be there, I will definitely be there tomorrow. But for those of you that don't know, there is a Senate hearing tomorrow here in Austin at the Capitol on red flag laws and gun confiscation and stuff like that. So if you can be here at 9, be here. And look, here's the thing. It's probably going to take all day. Republicans in these committees, they're not inviting grassroots people to these hearings. They're inviting the establishment, rhino style gun rights and gun control groups. They're not inviting people that represent the people. So it's going to be an all-day thing if you show up. But if you don't have all day, that's fine. Please go. If you can go. And if you can wait an hour or two to see if you can speak. But sign up and put your name on the line. Even if you don't testify, you can sign up at the kiosk, because you got to sign up there to testify anyway. Sign up at the kiosk, get your name registered that you showed up, and then in that case, you can at least register your opinion that way. So, and that's just as important than testifying. So if you can be there, register, show that you were there. Other than that, I don't know if I'm going to be there. So, all right, guys, thank you all for watching. This was probably the most boring video ever. And God bless you. Take care and be free.